In this video, we're going to be using proportions to solve problems involving percent. And when we do that, we're going to be using something called the percent proportion, so it's a specific proportion for percents. Remember that when you use a proportion, what you're really doing is setting two equal ratios to each other and then solving. A proportion or a percent is really just a ratio that uses 100 because percent means out of 100. All right, so the percent proportion always looks like this. It's part over whole equal to percent over 100. And there are three basic types of percent problems. You're either finding the part, you're finding the whole, or you're finding the percent, because the 100 always stays the same. So you can solve these problems the same as you would solve any proportion problem. You're going to start by setting up your four boxes and then filling it in with the information you're given. All right, so in this problem, in this example, it says what number is 12% of 24? All right, so they're asking you for a number that's a percentage of 24. So when I fill in a percent proportion, there's always one box that's always the same, and that's the 100 one. So that's where I like to start. I put the 100 there, and then I know the percent always goes above the 100. So I'm going to read the problem again, and if there's a percent, then I know that that's going to be over the 100. And sure enough, it's 12%. I know it's the percent because it's got a percent sign right next to it. So the 12 is going to go above the 100. And then the next thing I need to do is figure out, all right, so is the 24 the part or is it the whole? Because that determines whether or not it'll go on top or on bottom. So this one says what number is 12% of 24. Hopefully when you read that, you can tell that they're asking for a part of 24. So the 24 would be the whole amount. And then we're going to fill in the part with just our variable. I'm going to use x. And now I have a proportion that I can solve. Now, sometimes this is confusing. People get the part and the whole part mixed up. So there is a little trick that you can use to help you remember that. Although it won't work in every single percent problem, but in these types of problems, these examples, it might be helpful. All right, so a part is usually near the word is, and whole is usually near the word or follows the word of. Now, in this case, the is comes before the percent. I know this has to be the percent because of the percent sign. So 12 is the percent, not the part. So, but the of 24, since 24 is following the word of, I can use that to determine that 24 is the whole. All right, so if this just confuses you, then you don't have to use it. It's just one of the tricks that we like to show you in case it's helpful. All right, now if I go ahead and solve this, 12 times 24, I need to multiply 24 and 12. So 4 times 2 is 8, 2 times 2 is 4. Start with a 0, 1 times 4, and 1 times 2. End up with 288, and then I need to finish this by dividing by 100. So I'm going to divide 100 into 288. 100 will go into 288 twice. When I subtract 200, I get 88. I add my decimal, bring it up, bring down my 0. 100 will go into 880 8 times. When I subtract, I get 80. I can bring down one more 0. So 100 will go into 800 8 times. So my answer is x equals 2.88. And you might notice that that's very similar to the 288 I got when I multiplied. Well, the reason that is because you were dividing by 100. And what happens when you divide by 100? Basically, you're just going to move the decimal place over 2 places. Because anytime you divide by a power of 10, that's basically all you're doing is moving your decimal. If there are 2 zeros, you move it over 2 places. So that's kind of a shortcut if you can remember it. Otherwise, you can always divide like normal and find the right answer that way. All right, so let's look at the second type of problem. In this problem, we're finding the whole amount. So it says 16 is 4% of what number? I'm going to use the 100 to start my proportion. It's always going to be in one of the boxes. I know percent always goes above it. So I'm going to read my question and see if it tells me the percent. Sure enough, it's right there, 4%. So 4 goes above the 100. And then I want to figure out, is 16 the part or is it the whole? So 16 is 4% of what number? So 16 is a piece of a bigger number. 16 is the part. So x is the whole. Now, if you're not sure, if you're trying to figure out, is this one the part, is this one the whole? Again, you can kind of go back to is over of. 16 is, it's close to that word is, so we can say that 16 is the part. All right, then to solve it, you're going to cross multiply. 16 times 100 is 1600, and then I still need to divide by 4. So I can divide 4 into 16 4 times. Bring down my 0, it'll go 0 times. Bring down another 0, it'll go 0 times. So x is equal to 400. And the last type of problem, this time you're finding the percent. So again, I'm going to start by filling in my boxes with the 100. When I read the problem, it's asking what percent of 36 is 24. So there's nothing, neither one of these numbers has that percent symbol, so I don't know the percent in this case. That's going to be my x. So now I have to go back and figure out, well, which one's the part and which one's the whole. Again, this may be where is and of come in handy. What percent of 36, that's the bigger part, is 24, the smaller part. So of 36 is 24, is goes on top, or 24 is the part. Of 36, of goes on bottom, or 36 is the whole. All right, to solve it, I'm going to multiply 24 times 100, it gives me 2400, and then I'm going to divide it by 36. Okay, so I can divide 36 into 246 times. 6 times 6 is 36, 38, yeah, 216. When I subtract, I'm going to get 4 here. 3 minus 1 is 2. I'm going to bring down my next 0. 36 will go into 246 times. So I should start to see that this is repeating. I can add a decimal and a 0, bring it down, because I'm not going to start repeating it until it's a decimal. So this is 66.6, and then I'm going to show that it's repeating by using that line there. And then on this problem, x is equal to 66.6 repeating, but because they asked for a percent, I want to go ahead and include that percent sign as part of my answer. So there you go, 66.6 repeating percent. All right, so let's try using the percent proportion in these problems below. If you think you have it figured out, then I would encourage you to pause the video and work these out ahead of me, and then go back and watch and see how you did. And that's the way you can practice and sort of test yourself at the same time. All right, so in the first one, it says, what number is 20% of 125? So my first step is to draw my boxes. And then the first box I can always fill in is the 100. I know above the 100 is always a percent, so when I read this problem, 20%, I can see that's the percent. It's going to go above the 100. And then I need to know 20% of 125. All right, so is 125 the part or the whole? What number is 20% a part of 125? So 125 goes on bottom, it's the whole. X is my part. Again, if you're not sure, the of part, okay, goes on bottom, it's the whole. So 20 times 125 gives me a row of zeros, and then I start with a 0. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and then 2 times 1 is 2. So I add these up to get 2,500, but I still need to divide by 100. So when I divide 100 into 2,500, they'll go into 250 2 times. Okay, subtract and get 50, bring down a 0. 100 will go into 500 5 times. So x is going to equal 25. Again, this is like the problem above it. When I divide by 100, I could, one of my shortcuts is to remember dividing by 100 just moves the decimal 2 places. So I could have moved that over 2 places and gotten 25 a little faster. And then what did we find in this one? I was finding the what? The part. So 20% of 125. You're going to see in the next video that if I apply this to a real life problem, I might be asking you like how much is 20% of $125? So we know as we get closer to Christmas and Thanksgiving and Black Friday and all that, we're going to see a lot of percents talking about sales and stuff. So this might be when you want to know if you're going to get 20% off of $125, you want to know how much that is. And that's what you're finding. You're finding the part that's equivalent to 20%. All right, so in this next problem where it says what percent of 75 is 18, so I'm going to again draw these boxes. The 100 always goes in the bottom. I like to write it in first. When I read my problem, I do not see a percent sign. In fact, they're asking for the percent, so I know that that is my variable. And then of 75 is 18, so what percent of the bigger 75 is 18? So 75 is my whole. 18 is my part, or again, of is the whole, is the part, so is over of will work too. 18 times 100 is 1800. I just need to divide it now by 75. It'll go twice. 2 times 75 is 150. Subtract, I get 30, and I bring down a 0. So 75, I'll go into 300 4 times. Yeah. All right, so my answer is x equals 24, and then this is a percent, so I'm going to go ahead and write it as a percent, 24%, and I'm going to write down, and that's what I was finding, the percent. And in this third example here, it says 36 is 75% of what number? So again, we're starting all these problems the same way. Fill in your 100. What always goes above the 100? The percent. So go back, look at your problem. Is there a percent? Yeah. The 75% here is the percent. All right, 36 is 75% of a number. Right? 36 is a piece of that number. So it's the part. Okay, or 36 is on top. And then x is the part I'm looking for. 36 times 100 is 3,600. I still need to divide by 75. So I can divide 75 into 360. It should go 4 times. Yeah. When I subtract, I get 60, bring down a 0. 75 will go into 600. I know that's 8 times. Yeah. If you're not sure, I can do a lot of this division in my head, but if you're not positive, then remember you're just working this out over here to test it. 56 plus 4. Oh. Okay, so I found out my answer is 48, and then what was I solving for? Well, it was on bottom here. That's the whole. All right, so this is pit stop A. We're going to stop the video there and let you practice the a pit stop quiz. And then we're going to come back in the next video and work on these last 3 problems where we're actually applying now the percent proportion to real life problems. Okay.